What is that? That is grout. Water's been added. I mixed it per the instructions on the packaging, and it's time to apply it. It's long overdue, day 5, but I'm finally getting to it. So let's get it done. Okay, so for those who've never grouted, the consistency is just thick enough so that when I go to apply to the vertical surfaces, it won't run, just won't run down the sides, right? It won't run down the channels, right? It'll stay put. Now, you'll see that my grout lines run this way and this way, but I'm applying the grout mostly in a diagonal fashion in relation to the grout lines. Right? That helps get it into the grout lines. The grout, that if you've seen any of it fall to the floor and onto the wood deck, it's not to worry. Grout cleans up real nice. So I can just let it dry on the wood. Even if I step on it, you come by the next day with a putty knife. You can basically just grind it right, just scrape it right off, and then a wet rag, and you rub it a little bit, and it just disappears. So, dropping some on the ground, not a big deal. I did, however, drop a big clump, so I'm going to scoop that up, throw it back on top here. Alright, so again, I'm just going diagonally across the grout line, and I'm making sure I push down nice and hard, making sure that it gets pushed into that grout line. See, I missed a section right there. Alright, so you just spread it like a big piece of toast with chocolate butter in this case. I got a dark brown grout going into my dark brown wood look tile. This is actually the grout color that was used at the house that we just sold in one of the rooms. So I didn't have to buy this, even though grout's not that expensive. But why buy it if what you got is sufficient? Alright, so now I'm going to come back and backfill a little bit in these tighter gaps on the edges. So I'm not going to film me doing the whole deal here. Just give you like 5 minutes or something, and then I'll just turn the camera back on when I'm done and show you the finished product. Of course, as you know, or as you may not know, but just like mortar, when you put mortar down, and you got to wait 24 hours before you grout. After you grout, you got to wait a day before you can use it. Now, however, that being said, part of the grouting process is the cleanup. So the cleanup part is when you come back after once I get all the grout in all of the cracks, right, and all the crevices, come back with a sponge and you wipe all the grout off the tile. That takes actually almost more time than grouting itself. You have to do it. You have to do that sponge cleaning process multiple times. The first time you go through, you're pretty much just wiping the grout off the tile, and your grout, or the bucket, you have a bucket full of water, so you dip your sponge in the bucket, and then you wipe your grout off your tile, but your sponge gets so dirty right away that you have to rinse it in your bucket. Well, then that first couple of times you run your sponge across your tile, and you clean off the grout and you throw it in the bucket to rinse off the sponge, your water gets dirty, and you have to then go rinse out dump your bucket of water, go get more water, clean your sponge out real good, of course, and that all takes time. It adds up. So applying the grout is really not that time consuming compared to the cleanup process with the sponge afterwards. When you're applying the grout, you just, you can be messy all you want. You just slop it on there, basically. Alright, so I can just like that, and slop it right on, and then just spread it around where it needs to go. This is a sanded grout. They do make unsanded grout. The difference between sanded and unsanded, well, there's sand and sanded grout. But why would you want the sand? Well, when your grout lines are greater than, I believe the limit is 1/8 inch, you have to use sanded grout because it has a stronger integrity. Unsanded grout is for those really thin grout lines, 1/8 inch or less, or what they call it budded. I can't remember if it's called budded when your tiles are like basically touching each other, or it's like a 1/16 inch of a grout line. That's when you can use the unsanded grout. All right, let's see. I have the fat grout lines, partially because, well, the math worked out really good, right? If I did 1/8 inch grout lines, then I had 6-inch tiles going across 24-inch countertop, and that divides out nicely by 4. Also, fatter grout lines are good for beginners. The real skinny grout lines requires a bit of talent. It also requires what's called rectified tiles. And rectified means that the tiles themselves are perfectly square. So you'd be surprised to learn perhaps that not all tile is square. They look square, right? But when you go to tile a floor, let's say your living room is 20 feet long or whatever, could be 15 feet, could be 10 feet even. That's not a very big one, but could be. You're laying down these tiles, and if you don't have rectified tiles and you're doing really skinny grout lines, well, there's no room for play. Meaning that as you lay your first couple of tiles, everything looks great. But then you get halfway through your living room and you realize, wait a second, the first row of tiles I just laid is not lining up with the second row of tiles that I'm putting in right now. Meaning that, say, the second row of tiles are either getting closer or farther away from the first row of tiles. So a non-square or non-rectified tiles, which you can't see it. Like, you just look at it, it looks square, but when you put them down on a floor and you're trying to tile a floor, and if they're not square, well, by the time you take that small variation, you run down, 10 feet down the run, that small variation turns into a big variation by the time you get, say, 10 feet. So rectified tiles are guaranteed to be square. Rectified tiles allow you to get really skinny grout lines, or just let you lay your tiles in confidence that when you think they're going to be going down straight, they will be going down straight. Now, I don't know if these tiles are rectified, but I didn't care because I was putting in 1/8 inch grout lines, and this is my first tile job. So I wasn't about to get fancy and try and, do 1/16 inch grout lines or something like that. I would just get myself into a world of trouble. Alright. Okay, so I think I've got all this skinny stuff taken care of. So let's start working the whole back wall here. Alright, see, if I go straight up, well, made a liar out of me. Filled in pretty good that time. Let's see if I have it here. Alright, see, if I just go straight up, it gaps out. We can't have that. I do have a limited amount of grout, so I'm going to, I'm scooping up the stuff that's falling because I don't want to run out and have to buy more. So anyways, that's why you go diagonally, because you got to make sure that your lines get filled. And this is a bit of work. You actually got to push pretty hard, because you're squishing that grout, trying to get that grout in those gaps as far down as you can. You want to get it in there. So I'm going to clean up as much as I can. So I want to stretch this out as far as I can. If I run out of this batch, I do have a little bit more left over. Yeah, boy, looking at what I've gone through already, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this whole piece done, but I do think I will have enough grout. All right, so I'm going to continue this effort, and I will tune back in once I'm done. I just thought of a funny story. I thought I'd tune you back on, or turn the camera back on before I forgot the story. So some years ago, I'm at the office and I'm talking to my boss, and he's telling me how his brother-in-law did some tile work in the bathroom. And I guess he did a pretty good job putting the tile in. Then it came time to grout it. And he didn't understand the concept of just taking the grout, throwing it on here, and just rubbing it up and down the tiles and squeezing it in there. This guy mixed up his grout, put it in a spoon, and went along and tapped the grout into the grout lines with a spoon. Now, can you imagine doing a whole bathroom like that? Must have taken the guy a whole week just to grout the bathroom. Something that should have taken, I don't know, a couple hours maybe. You know, if you're new at it and you're trying to learn the concepts. A spoon. I have inexperience, but I do like to think that I know enough to tell myself when it's that difficult or that time consuming, there's got to be a better way. All grouted up, and it's real light colored like that because it's the haziness of the grout drying, right? So if I run my finger right there, which is, my finger's a little wet, you can see the actual color of the tile below. So I'm gonna just wipe off with a dry rag a little bit, just some of the bigger chunks, right, like that. That's a big chunk sitting right there. I'm just gonna wipe that off by hand, with a dry rag, and then I'm gonna come through with the wet sponge and get her all cleaned up.